and welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this, my friends, is the Thunder Show, aka the internet's most passionate wine program, and I'm very excited. I've got to interact a little bit on Twitter with our next guest, and I've been paying attention to some of the stuff he's doing. He's a pretty cool guy. I'm glad we're getting a chance. To meet Mark. Why don't you tell the Vayner Nation who you are, a little bit about yourself, man. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure, my honor.
Thanks, man.
So I am Mark Oldman. I am a wine writer. I like to say I slay the snooty and jostle the jaded. I see myself as a conduit between the pros and everyone else, which is like 99% of the world. My friends, my sister, my mom, almost no one really feels confident about wine. So I try to glean out the little nuggets that people really need to know and give them that comfort, empower them with ideas about wine. And in my new book, what I try to do is tell people what the insiders are drinking, the people like Gary and the insider friends Gary has, the pro friends I have, because you don't need, and one of the things I've loved about your show is you try to get people drinking some less familiar grapes.
Absolutely.
And you don't need a Master of Wine degree to really start doing that.
No. And so this book's now available?
Yeah.
Out there. Let's go to Amazon. Let's link that up. Maniacs, check this out. I've heard some good things from different friends about this book, so congratulations.
Awesome.
It's getting some nice buzz.
Appreciate it.
So are you going on any book? You did the book tour thing already?
I'm mid-book
Because sometimes
tour.
the Maniacs like to get them signed. So do you do things, or, is there a way to get it signed?
Well, there is.
They can send it to you, send it back?
They can do that. I can sign Norton book plates. I'm also on a book tour. I've been to 15 cities. You could see my invisible walker.
How's the tour been going?
It's been great.
Is this your first book?
Second wine book.
How'd the first one go?
First one was phenomenal.
Great.
My first publisher, who shall remain nameless, I say their expectations were for it to sell like a Celtic poetry book. book. They printed just,
like 3 of them?
Like 3. You know how these publishers are. And it's now in its 9th printing. So I think people responded to. Thank you.
And you said your second wine book. Does that mean you wrote a book prior?
Yeah, I've written a lot of career books. That's kind of what I was doing. I know you're very entrepreneurial, and that's kind of where I see myself. And I started a company called Vault.com, which was kind of like a career portal, and that was based out of these career books I had written.
And so, did wine become a passion? Was wine always a passion along the way, and you decided to make it a career as well?
Exactly. It was wine. I started wine when I was in college. I was like, there was an overseas program in my college in England, and I was like, they had a serious team. These Brits took themselves very seriously.
Yes, they do.
Buttery with a tinge of tomato leaves and a little bit of asperity on the palate. I'm a Jersey guy.
Yep. Is that right?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Dude,
where?
I down 78, Bridgewater, Martinsville.
Oh, geez, that's really. That's where I am too. Down 78. I grew up. I lived in Hunterdon County.
Dude.
I went to North Hunterdon High School.
You guys are the best wrestling team.
Best.
I was a wrestler. We would we would cower in fear going to North Hunterdon.
And Phillipsburg was scary. Did you ever have to play them, or you two?
No.
We went even more, as you get closer to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They get serious about their wrestling.
Oh, you guys were like Shoot from Vision Quest. The guy going up.
Oh, wrestling was king in my high school.
Yeah,
for sure.
And football and wrestling. And I read somewhere you had played football.
Where'd you guys go? Bridgewater?
Bridgewater East. And I swear, that was the only way you could potentially or technically get chicks, although it didn't quite work for me.
Hunterdon County, Anyway, so when did wine become a passion of yours?
So I was doing this overseas program, a lot of snooty Brits, and I brought it back to my college, went to Stanford in California. I'm like, let's not make it snooty. Let's open it up to everyone. Invite the top winemakers from Napa, Sonoma, come down and talk about their wine. And I naively thought we'd have to pay them. So I would collect dues from the students, and instead, everyone from Robert Mondavi.
So you started an organization, or you took over the head of being an existing organization?
Started it from.
What was it called?
The Stanford Wine Circle, and again, I thought.
What year was this?
This was 1990, And I thought we'd have to pay these people, and instead they were chomping at the bit.
So you went overseas,
Yeah.
caught the wine bug, came home and said, I'm going to start something here.
Exactly.
And we're going to make it a little bit more fun.
Much more fun.
Much more fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start the Stanford Wine Circle.
Exactly.
Does that still exist or it's evolved?
It does. It does. Well,
that's cool.
I loved running it so much. Like, I became obsessed with it that I stayed on, don't tell my professors, but I stayed on to get a master's in part just so I could run this wine club.
It's amazing.
It was so cool. And then a kid who was in the wine club went to the business school there, and it lives on in the MBA school.
That's great.
But I must say, for undergrads, of course, of age undergrads, it was much more fun. Even Robert Mondavi came in at the time.
Which was a pretty big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
People, and he was so smoochy, by the way.
Oh, he was amazingly personable.
Co-eds.
Amazing.
He would pull them in by the arm.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he was
that tends to happen with the older wine guys. So you fall in love with wine. Stanford. You leave. You start being entrepreneurial and start some businesses.
Yes.
But wine is still a part of your life.
Yes, and so I had run about 60 of these wine presentations at Stanford, and seeing all these great Napa and Washington State winemakers, learning a lot about wine. So this was 1992, and I, back with the Zagat Guide, winning wine lists. I hoofed it to every good wine restaurant in New York and said, could I teach a beginning wine seminar here? And they were all like, kid, we'd make, nice idea, but we'd make more money selling directly to diners. And then I found this place called the Soho Kitchen and Bar. Doesn't exist anymore, but it had a Cru Vinet machine, 100 wines by the glass, and an empty cabaret room. And the owner was like, okay, you teach the wine seminar, you pick out the wines, I'll provide the room, I'll market it, you market it, and we'll split the profits, basically.
He had the real estate.
He had the real estate and the wine, and and he could tell the pure passion that I wasn't doing it for any other reason, that I was like into it, you know?
Yep.
And so I would call it the Soho Anti-Snob Wine Seminar, and tape flyers up on poles in
straight hustle.
Pure hustle.
Pure hustle.
And by the way, the sanitation department didn't catch up with me for 5 years.
That's a nice run.
Yeah, it was a good run.
So you did that from what years?
I did that from like 90 or 91 to like 93. Then I started writing these career books, and then I would break it out just for fun.
But from like 91 to 93, this was kind of what you were doing.
Exactly.
So you were in the wine business, pretty much.
Yeah, wine seminars.
And then you went into this career thing for a while.
Yeah.
And that became your main thing.
That became my main thing.
And then
.com, rode the .com thing up.
And then now this is your main thing again?
Yeah, but what's interesting, the interesting parallel to what you do, with what I did with the career books and especially Vault.com, is we were kind of pre-internet, pre-Twitter. We were all about getting companies comfortable with what their employees would say about them.
Interesting.
And that was not something they were comfortable with.
No.
But we had the internet's first company-specific collection of message boards for employees. So at Arco or Union Carbide or Goldman Sachs, people, the first theme, this got us into a little bit of trouble, but the first theme was bitch about your boss at Vault.com. But that got us on the map and got the Wall Street Journal, New York Times write about us. And then we became like the place, if you're thinking about working for a bank or a consulting firm, you would go to Vault
and check it out
and get the inside scoop.
Still up?
Yeah, we sold it in 2007 to a private equity firm. So it's a little bit, it's
removed,
like, yeah. But now I look at what you're doing and espousing, I know with your new book coming out, espousing the whole idea of like transparency and how companies just can't whitewash anymore.
Yeah.
The truth is going to come out.
Truth's undefeated.
Yeah, it is.
So I have, a couple weeks ago I went into the Wine Library TV forums. Mott, you're a big hangout guy there. And Grape Ape, one of the Great Maniacs, asked to do some Washington State wines. So I'm doing that. So I wanted to taste that. So we're going to taste 3 Washington State wines. Awesome. But you also brought a 1933 Madeira here, which is really a lot of fun. Are you a fan of Madeira? I
am, and in my new book, it's one of the 48 chapters. Basically,
and the chapters are broken up into what the insiders are drinking?
Exactly. Awesome. It could be bubbly, it could be whites, it could be reds. And I know people in general aren't into dessert wine, but I think Madeira is so interesting, and the tastes are so unusual.
It's a great layout, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I really like the way it was laid out.
Well, that means a lot because I sit there like putting knives in myself in a basement.
It's a great layout.
Thinking about it.
It's a great layout.
But basically, it's a great way to celebrate life's occasions. In 1933, you know, well, what happened in
Prohibition.
Yeah, Prohibition was repealed in 1933. So for me, it's a special thing to be on your show. So I was thinking, what bottle can I bring that also shows a chapter from
Well, I appreciate it. Let's go right into it. Let's go into the Bedrock Wine Company Stellwagen Vineyard 09 Sonoma's 2 Washington States and 1 Sonoma wine. Sorry, Grape Ape. $28. No score. 8 barrels made. And let's see what's going on here. So now, listen, Mark. I want you to bash or love these wines as much.
Okay.
Please, you know, sometimes I think people come on the show and they don't
afraid.
realize. Yeah, I don't think they realize how transparent we go here. Like,
right.
I could care less about your personal opinion about this wine. We want the real answer. So let's snip it up.
Sniffing.
What are you getting on the nose?
I'm getting some nice blackberry. Maybe a little bit of that twiggy brambliness going on.
It's extremely big on the nose. You know, big black fruit. I agree. I get a little pepper as well.
You know, see, I cut my teeth on. I love European wine, but I cut my teeth on big California wine. So there's place in my heart for big wines.
Me too. They're gonna love you for that.
Okay.
What are you getting? What are you thinking about this wine?
You know, to me, it's not too bitter. There's a little bit of alcoholic heat, but
on the finish, right?
Yeah, on the finish. But you know, I would not be ashamed of serving this at a dinner party. I think people would like it
because it's got a
it's
delicious
smooth.
factor.
It has a it does have
the
a
sweetness aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Zin in general, I think, is extremely fascinating because it has so much fruit and there's a delicious factor that we were just talking about that is a dinner party friendly wine. Most people, when you start getting into $20 or more Zin from California, are going to be extremely safe serving it because unless you're hardcore, there's just too much deliciousness for somebody not to like it. Unless it gets over alcoholic.
Right.
That being said, I do think this wine is struggling a little bit from its heat. It's extremely young. 2009 for Zin is Baby City, USA. It is a little hot for me on the finish. There is a little bit too much fake fruit. It does have a little artificial fruit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that?
I almost think there's a artificial aspect that extends to the oak. But kind of like Lady Gaga, I know it's somewhat artificial, but I kind of like it anyway.
That's a very good analogy. I like that. Good work. That's a really good way to put it. I agree. You could tell with Gaga there's a lot thought about.
Right. Manipulated.
No question. No question. That's a very good way to put it. I think that's a good way to kind of, I like that. That's a good job. To me, this is like an 88-point wine on the palate for me, mainly because, well, how would you score this? Do you rate in your mind on a 100-point scale ever?
I don't, but for this I will, and I would give it an 89 just to,
And so I know you don't score for the book in that scale, but when you taste wine, do you have a 100-point scale in your mind? Or do you have a 5-star scale in your mind? Do you have a 20-point scale in your mind? Do you have no scale in your mind? How do you kind of think about that?
It's probably, do I absolutely love it? Do I like it and would serve it at a dinner party? Or are there red flags with it? Or is it completely untenable?
So almost like a 4.
Almost
right?
like a 4.
Yeah.
You
mentioned dinner party a lot.
Yeah.
Do you find, are you big into the entertainment aspect and the kind of experiential aspect of wine?
I so much am. I mean, I don't do it enough. I finally...
Because you're too busy?
Well, yes. And my friends don't reciprocate. My friends are Jersey like ruffians.
Uh-huh.
So you have all this wine for them, and they drink it and they leave, basically. But I'm hoping, now that I have a new setup in New York, and I get furniture, I just got rid of my aero bed. It's very exciting.
It's a big day.
My last girlfriend was like, "You're going to have that aero bed through December. Just watch." And it was like December 16th. I'm like, I think I better get rid of this thing. But the new girlfriend is absolutely fine with the Arab bed. However, I went to Bloomingdale's. I got a mattress. It's so nice. There actually is a big difference. But I think once I actually get a table and chairs, I'm going to start having... Yeah.
It's good. Let's move on to one of the great producers in all of America. If you do not know Betz, B-E-T-Z, you're making a huge mistake for yourself. One of the great Washington State wines, in my opinion. 94 points, J. Miller, 93 Wine Enthusiast, 93 Steven Tanzer. It's a $40 wine. This is its 2007 Clos de Betz, which is a red blend. Big fan of this. Can you get me K-Murph? Because there's something we got to really talk about. Because I do not know the blend breakdown. Don't hesitate, Mott. Yell at her right now. K-Murph! K-Murph! So, have you had some Betz wines in the past or no?
I have.
So, what a class act he is, first of all. Have you ever had a chance to interact with him or be in the same place?
Not. I've been in the same place, but never interacted.
The Clos de Betz, K-Murph. I don't have the grape breakdown. Yeah. No, it's okay. It's okay. It happens. By the way, did Grape Bay pick all the wines?
Yes.
Or, okay.
All
Got
of
it. Can you get me the grape breakdown?
Yeah.
Cool. So I think it's a predominant Cabernet in the past. Or maybe Merlot. I'm not sure. Check.
Yes.
Check. Thanks. So let's give it a sniffy sniff. Betz. Betz Family Winery. As a matter of fact, you know what? Link up Betz Family Winery. I almost kind of think that people should join the mailing list. I deep down think as we are having a resurgence, economy's getting a little bit better, though I think it's going to be a long time. That'll be another story. Betz is one of the wineries that I see going maybe direct to consumer or becoming harder and harder to get. I'm thrilled every year. Every year we are able to get Betz again. I'm like, but, you know, you're talking about Andrew Will, Betz, you know, you're talking about some of these producers in Washington State that bring amazing wine quality to the table and hard to get. Betz is one of those, probably not available in most states, and very well priced for the high quality that, you know, they haven't like jumped the shark in pricing. 40 bones for his quality to me is really interesting.
I mean, this is like, so you just smell that. I just think complexity. There's a lot going on in here. And, you know, with Washington State, you've got the Cascade Mountains running interference. So the weather, you know, they don't get a lot of that, like, overly water-soaked weather going on.
With the breaking news, I apologize.
Yeah,
breaking
awesome.
news.
Let's
breaking
figure
news,
it out.
56% Merlot.
See? You see how I went late with Merlot. 56 Merlot.
21 Cab Sauv.
Okay.
And then the rest is a mix of Malbec, Cab Franc, Mourvedre, and Petit Verdot.
How does it just says the rest? So 56 Merlot, 21 Cab, and the rest Malbec,
a mix.
Mourvedre.
Yeah, Mourvedre, which is interesting. Cab Franc, Petit Verdot.
Cab Franc and Petit Verdot.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, thanks, Kamer.
No problem. Sorry.
So beautiful nose, very almost Bordeaux-like.
Right, me too.
On the nose.
Not overly.
Pomerol, you know, kind of style.
Yeah.
Hence the Merlot percentage. Chalky, a little tobacco, good red fruit. Let's give it a whirl. What do you think?
I think it's so beautifully in proportion. There's a lot of complexity. You get a little bit of tannin, a little bit of acid, but you've got enough fruit to balance that off. It's just a terrific wine and a great value.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
This wine really speaks to me. Very Bordeaux-like, extremely smooth. When I say Bordeaux-like, it's not over-dominated by fruit. There's great red fruit. Cranberry, raspberry. There is a savory component, which is why the cranberry kind of, it's not just strawberry and cherries. A lot of times you'll watch a show, I'll say strawberry, cherry. That's when it's sweet. When you start throwing words like cranberry into the mix, almost maybe even rhubarb, you know, you start getting these kind of savory components. There's almost like a soy sauce component, because you can almost get that minerality, very long finish. This is one of the better mid-palates that I've seen in a wine in a very long time. Connects the dots perfectly, nice long finish, chalkiness, almost like chocolate.
Yeah.
I'm a humongous fan of this wine.
The finish is so long. It's been like a minute, and I can still taste it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is where J. Miller, Wine Enthusiast, Steven Tanzer, all clopped up in that 93, 94 point range, and I think they're right. I'm going to join the bandwagon. I'm going to go 94 points for me, and at $40, one of the better values for California red blends that I've had this year. Kind of reminds me of why I was so excited about Flora Springs Trilogy, but maybe with even a more complex backbone and structure to it. This would fall into your category, that best A category, no?
Absolutely.
Or more of a B?
Best A category, and it would fall into a chapter of my book, which is try reds from Washington State, because the quality, I think, is more reliable overall than a lot of places.
Including California, maybe?
Well, in my style, because it's more northerly.
So do you feel because they just tend to be more balanced in general?
Exactly. What you said about more Bordeaux-like and sometimes more savory, and because these tend to be more mom-and-pop wineries, they're not paying for those giant ads in magazines, and they tend to be better values.
You think so? You think the consumers at the end of the day paying less for marketing and more just straight up for the wine?
I think if you want a great, luscious red, dependably, I would go to Washington State. I love Napa wine. I love Sonoma wine. But if you like it a little bit richer, you like the Syrah especially, or Merlot, or Cabernet, or blends of some of those, you got to go Washington State.
Good point.